Welcome to an episode of The Couch Show, guys, and welcome to our channel, Sibling Rivalry. We're your hosts. I'm Lynn. This is Ray.
Welcome back.
Yeah, we kind of have like a heavy topic today with everything that's been going on with this sub that went missing a couple of days ago in the ocean. They were diving down deep to explore and just kind of like see the remains of the Titanic. So that's kind of like our topic today. So we're gonna be talking about. But before we jump into that, if you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. Please consider subscribing. For those of you who are back once again, thank you so much for riding with us and showing some support every time. Have to say hello to Tris. So you hop on here before we even got. We were like, oh,
nice. We got people waiting in the scenes. Thank you, Tris. Thank you for the love. Thank you for coming back and rocking with us on the show. So I started hearing about this story back on Sunday when I was driving back from. So over the weekend I went to DC, Austin Con. Sunday we woke up early, went to the beach, Delaware beaches, and like the news were popping up, right? And I didn't get sucked into the story at first. Like I didn't care. Like I was like, whatever, just the headline popped up. But then it got me when they started saying that they only have a few hours of oxygen left, right? They had like 96 hours of oxygen, and that they had to be found within that time frame if they were going to survive, right? And like to me, that's what kind of sucked me into the story. And, going into that rabbit hole was the fact that I was rooting for them, right? I was like, yo, maybe there's a chance that they could be found. And then I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. I think it was yesterday. Yesterday they were saying that like they had sonar going and they could hear like somebody like knocking, right?
yes.
Like they heard knocking and they thought like, oh, maybe they were like tapping on the side of the hole or something. And, they were doing like SOS or something like that.
Have you heard the audio?
Audio as far as what?
Of the knocking that they heard. Let me pull it up.
Yeah. I heard it. And then people were like, yo, why don't they use like somebody was like, why aren't they doing like the triangulation like they do with like cell phone towers, where they can like triangulate the sound and then be like, all right, this is where they are, right? So man, we just got right into it. Let's give some more content. Let's give like a timeline as far as like what happened. So on Sunday, what's the name of the company that made the submarine? Ocean View, I think it is.
Ocean something. Yeah, Ocean Gate maybe.
Okay, yeah. So they launched a small submarine, which I saw the tours. I saw there's a video online where it shows you like the tour of the submarine, and it's about the size of like a minivan, right? So they launched the sub with 5 people, which one was the pilot, which is the CEO of the company, right? Another one was this oceanic French explorer, right? And then the other 2 were like these.
There was a father and son. Yeah,
father and son billionaire, and then another billionaire. And the seat cost to go on this tour was $250K per person. So, well, out of the 3, because the other 2, they were staff. So, out of the 3, they paid $250K to go on this tour. And this tour, I believe it's like about 2 miles deep down into the water. Like down deep into the ocean.
I think it's more than 2 miles. But it takes 2 hours just to slowly ascend.
No, it takes 8 hours to get down there.
8 hours? Holy crap!
Yeah, because they were saying that at one point they were like,
no. It was supposed to be an 8-hour tour. They were only supposed to be in there for 8 hours.
It takes like 8 hours to decompress and come back up from the ocean floor. And so they were saying that at one point they were like, the window is closing because even if they found them, you would still have to bring them up.
Right.
So like they would have to come back up and that there wasn't enough, there wasn't going to be enough oxygen. So this whole story, by the way, I'm going to be transparent. This whole story freaks me out. Like I do not do well with large bodies of water. I really don't. I like going to the ocean, right? I like
Mhm.
going to the lake. I like doing all that stuff. But for me personally, I didn't learn how to swim until I joined the Marines, right? And that, of course, that was in a very stressful moment to try to learn how to swim, right? So I went to the Marines and they're like going through boot camp and the week of swimming training, they were like, you got to learn this or you're going to be left behind, right? And so I like barely made it through, the qualifications to say, yeah, you could uh quote unquote survive and swim, right?
Mhm.
And to this day, like I'm still a horrible swimmer. Um one of my fears in the Marines was, they kept saying how we were going to be stuck on the ship, right? Like a 6 month tour on the boat, and they tell you the stories of people falling into the ocean and all this stuff. So this thing, like just seeing it, and like when they show perspectives and like just like I would never want to do this because this shit is like this freaks me out, right? I would never want to do this. If I had that kind of money, I don't know why you would want to put your life in danger. But people who have money, I guess, um, I don't want to call them stupid because they figured out a way to make that kind of money, right? Like they figured out how to make that paper, but I feel like they're just bored. Like
Mhm.
they got when you have so much money and you get everything in the world and you get everything that you want, you're trying to do like
Try to
something
push the
new,
limit.
right?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
trying to,
trying to
you know.
push the limit, right? Which I'm all for, the spirit of exploration, right? Like we should be trying to go into space. We should be trying to go into the ocean, right? Not me personally, but you know, a lot of other people can go and do that deep sea exploration, right? And see what's down there, right? Maybe who knows? Maybe there's something new that we haven't discovered that could, revolutionize, life and the world as we know it, right? Who knows? I remember back in the day there was this TV show that was about that where they were like deep. It was like down in the ocean. I think it was called like Ocean Quest or something like that, or Sea
Mhm.
Quest or something like that. And they were just deep down in there, and they had like these really cool boats and stuff. And it was almost like 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 a sci-fi show, but instead of in space, it was down in the sea, right? So like I get it. Like there is, that draw to go down there because it's something that we haven't conquered yet as man, right?
Mhm.
And when you think about like the first pioneers, right, that went out and said we're gonna go, on a boat and we're gonna explore the world, and they went looking and searching and seeing what they could find, right? Um, they probably had money, right? Because they had to get a boat and they had to go out there and for the team to explore and all that stuff. So this is nothing new, right? This has been history, right? When you have that money, you have that desire to explore, you're gonna go out there, right? Like look at Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, right? They're fighting, they're fighting with each other to see who can be the first one in space and who's gonna do space exploration and all this stuff, right?
Not
So
to
we
mention,
see this.
let me get a word in here real
Go
quick.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
One of the names that are like really popping up throughout this whole story is the Explorers Club, because they stepped up and they were like, hey, we want to help, we have the
Right.
resources, we want to help. And one of the gentlemen that was on in the sub is a member of the club, but the spokesperson for the club that's really been heading this, he took a moment to mention that he sent condolences out to the families, but he
Hmm.
just mentioned like that father and son duo that are out here exploring and pushing the edge in this way. It's tragic that they passed, but that had they not, he's certain that their explorations would have drawn them to the club. So there's a
Mm.
club out here for people who have this like burning desire and the resources to kind of just explore in a different way than you and I do.
Right. But I mean, like I said, this has been going on since, the beginning of time, right? Whenever man has found a means, right? Once we have resources, we're always trying to take that next step to explore the unknown,
Mhm.
right? And that's all it is. It's like the sea is the unknown, space is unknown, and that's why, they're going up there and they're doing all of this. But to be that filthy rich, right? And be one of the first ones to go and like put your life in danger like that, I don't know. To me, it's crazy. Like I wouldn't do it. I mean personally, I wouldn't do it. Um, Especially when you see like
Definitely got
the
to be a draw to it. Like even
yeah,
the CEO, I have a clip where the CEO is explaining, the whole concept of the company, you know, the reason why he has this submarine and he's like taking people under the sea, because we have that desire to know what's down there, you know.
But it's crazy because the view that you like, I saw the tour of the submarine, and just it's a can, and what you're viewing, because they were welded shut in that thing, and there was
Yes.
just like a little tiny window that they were
Oh.
like you're gonna be like seeing a little thing, like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, that's the what's that, yeah, okay. And it's crazy because a couple of years ago, the director James Cameron,
Hmm.
he went down there. He went down in the sea, and he had like a really like high tech, submarine and all that stuff. And I'm like, why hasn't technology evolved from when he did it, which I believe it was like almost a decade ago, maybe not that much ago, long ago, but from like then till now, especially when this guy was charging 250K
A pop
per seat,
per
yeah,
person,
per
yes.
person. So, that really got to me. And so I started looking at more stories of the CEO, and this guy, you know what? He sealed his own fate. He sealed his own fate by how he ran his company, and unfortunately, he murked all these dudes.
Mm.
He murked all these people that were with him and trusted him. And of course, they signed waivers, right? So the company
Yep.
can't get sued and all that. But his negligence got him all murked, and I'm just gonna call it like I see it. And so, well, let's continue with the timeline so that we could keep, talking with the story. Because I mean, I got deep into this like the last 2 days. I was just like, man, hoping to the point where I saw the press conference today at 3. But, um, it was coming down to the wire as far as the air. And so, I mean, there was like the best, of course, the best solution, the best outcome that we were all hoping was that they were going to somehow get rescued, right?
Right.
That they were going to be found, they're going to be alive, or maybe they ended up, regaining control and coming back up and all that. Now, to me personally, as I thought about it, I said, of course, the first outcome is everybody's alive, right? The second outcome, though, is, and this is where, this is your humanity coming in, right?
Hmm.
Whenever right, what do we see all the time in the movies? We always see, like, take that person out of their misery, right? Be it, an animal or a person, they always shoot that person in the movie and they take them out of their misery, right? So they don't suffer
Hmm.
anymore. So the second best case scenario would be that they die instantly.
Hmm.
And from what the press conference we had today, it looks like that's what happened.
Yeah.
So the press conference, so it started, Sunday they launched, they went into the water, and within a couple of hours, they lost contact with the submarine,
Hmm.
which they didn't raise the flags then because they said this happened before. They're like,
Yes.
oh, this happens all the time. Our
Hmm.
radio sucks. And I'm like, how is nobody raising any red flags with any of this? Like, this to me is like it's crazy because, um, when once I'm bringing it back to the, when I was in the Marines, um, we used to, so my job in the Marines was, I was in avionics, right? I used to work on helicopters, and every morning we would line up on the flight deck. That was the first thing we would do. Everybody, be it, um, if you were the janitor, you were the mechanic, you were the electrician, everybody was like all lined up on the flight deck, and we were all pretty much, hand to hand, right?
Hmm.
And we would all walk down the flight deck, lockstep, looking for anything on the ground that could possibly get sucked into any of the engines, as they're doing their flights and, all their checks, and, they're taxiing out the helicopter, and they light up that engine, that little screw can fly right in, and boom, the engine is done, right? And then boom, an explosion, right? So we're at like lockstep, hand in hand, looking at the flight deck to see if there was anything on the ground. Every morning, that was the safety check, right? When we would check out tools. Like, there was actually a little, tool room, right? And we would say, hey, I need these tools to check out. And you would get the toolbox. And the toolbox had cutouts for every single tool. So before you turned it in, right, when you checked it out, you were checking in with the tool guy inside there, right, to make sure the inventory check, right? You signed it out. And then when you checked it back in, you were double checking to make sure everything was back in that toolbox before you checked it in, right? This
Yeah.
is all safety by numbers, safety like repetition, right? The fact that every time they went down, they lost communication is mind-boggling to me. Like, how would you?
Not only did they lose communications, but one of the pieces that they're saying they found from debris is something that they lost on a previous dive. So not only communications is bad, but they're losing pieces of this sub, and they're still
Yeah,
going
this shit's falling apart as they're going through.
Yes, yes, that was happening.
They said they had a safety guy that raised alarms back in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and they fired the dude.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh my god! Like I'm telling you, the CEO wrote his death wish.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think he had a death wish, and he took all these people with him. And
Yeah.
it's sad because there's one thing to have that spirit of exploration, but when you put your trust in somebody, like you're hoping that he's not cutting the corners that this guy was trying to cut,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're hoping that the spirit of exploration is the only thing, right, that you're going in with, that everything else was safeguarded and checked and double checked and all that. This is the equivalent of NASA, right, trying to launch spaceships every single time and they're exploding because nobody's double checking anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? There is no space exploration if it keeps exploding every time you try to launch it.
Right.
Like you double check, you triple check, right? I'm guaranteeing that every time NASA does a failed test, they're looking at everything, they're writing rules, they're writing, policy books and all that to make sure that shit doesn't happen again, right? And this guy was just doing all that stuff. He did an interview. There was one interview where they were showing, and he was just saying like, "Oh yeah, we just got this from Home Depot just like today, and we glue that up there, and we're doing this and doing that." I was like, this is why I was so stuck to the story, because there's more
Mm-hmm.
stuff just kept coming up about
Yeah.
how crummy the CEO was. And
Mm.
I was like, bro, like, and it's sad because, like you said, these people had the heart of exploration. They could
Mm-hmm.
have done something really cool and really led, the forefront of, etching their names in history for leading, like, hey, there's a new underwater, you know, station down in the sea because of these guys and what they did. But they trusted the wrong guy, man. This guy was a piece of crap, man. I like, the more I see about the CEO, I'm like, damn, man. I don't know how he ran this company.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm mind boggled that this guy is filthy rich running a company that he's just cutting corners, and none of the regulators, nobody came after him, right? None of the safety inspectors, nothing came down on him. This is crazy.
Yeah. Well, I
But
mean, you have to also, understand that, like, with exploring under the sea, it's not something that a lot of people are doing. It's not something that there are a lot of, ratings for, and there's not a lot of, oh, you have to make sure, you have the inspector come out during
what
this step and that step. Like,
I mean, they do. It's called the U.S. Navy. I mean, we do have submarines, and it is still $1 billion industry building all these ships and submarines, right? So there are companies that are building. And when you say like regulations, I mean, the military still has those regulations that they're following. Trust me, because if submarines were exploding or imploding, because they implode, they don't explode,
mm-hmm,
on a regular, you'd be hearing it on the news, right?
mm-hmm.
And then Congress would be like, "Oh, we're slashing the funding for all this stuff," and like it'd be,
Right. But what I'm
uh,
saying is this was a private company. Like, he just decided this is what he wants to do. He's like, hey, this is my imagination. This is my
yes,
problem.
yes, but he could have researched the top leading manufacturers of the subs for the military, right? Be it Lockheed, Boeing. I'm saying the names like I know from helicopters, right? So
Mm-hmm,
let's say I wanted to start my own private helicopter company, right? I would look up, Lockheed or Boeing, and I get it. A lot of this stuff is proprietary, right? So it's all their stuff. They're not going to give you all the keys to the kingdom.
mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about safety, maybe there's some kind of like group that comes together between all these guys and say, well, we got to follow regulation this when it comes to developing a submarine for the U.S. government, right? This is just all my past experience, and I was just like, it's mind-boggling that he didn't want to do any of that. And I mean, I'll get to the kicker later, but I want to let you take over for a little bit. So, what else you found? What else you found? Because I'm gonna get into the stuff about the CEO, and I'm just like, yeah. So, listen, there was resources he could have went out and got, people who do this and people who've done this for like 30 years, right? But there was a reason why he didn't go out after that. And we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Well,
You take it over. I've been ranting.
yeah, you have been ranting. You like spoke about everything that I have, but we didn't actually go into.
All right,
So
so bring it back.
what I will show you guys, so you guys have an idea, is the inside of this thing. Like just a depiction that like the French has that let me pull it up here. All right, so just to give you an idea of what the inside of this thing looks like. So it has the capability of 5 people, the capacity for 5 people. And this is what these people were kind of in here like, just sitting down, crisscross, not much space.
Actually,
Kylie would probably be the
it,
one up front.
yeah, yeah, and actually in the very back was a toilet.
Yeah, which I was reading, nobody had ever used.
Yeah,
You're never down there long enough to really have to use this toilet.
that's crazy. So wait, go back to that photo again. Go back to the image again.
Let me pull it back up.
Freaking death trap, man.
Yeah. Share screen.
You lost it.
Yeah, now my screen is gone. I'll share it this way.
Yeah. So is the front. All right. So let's go to the front of it. So is that the actual window that like we're seeing,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
or is
this
there,
is
or
not the
was
whole
it?
window.
No, that's the hole that they like sealed. They welded them in there,
Right.
and so there's like no windows. They're looking through like a little monitor, right? That's what they were looking through, like a little
Mm-hmm.
old school monitor. That's crazy. That's crazy. And so the window that was in the front, I think somebody raised the alarm that the glass itself was like rated for like 3,000 feet, and they were
Mm-hmm.
planning to go well past that because I think the Titanic is like at 12,000 or 12,000 feet or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like he knew like it wasn't rated for this, and
Wow.
so
I didn't know that. Wow.
yeah, I'm telling you, I went deep down into this rabbit hole.
Holy crap.
I've been watching videos and just like going into this stuff because this is just crazy
Mm-hmm.
of just and then I started thinking I was like, man, why would you want to go anywhere near the Titanic?
Mm-hmm.
Like such a tragedy and such negative energy that came from that tragedy, right? That disaster, right? Why would you want to go anywhere near that?
Mm-hmm.
Like me personally, I'd be like, I could explore. If I were to go in there, I'd be like, oh, let's just explore here. Let's go find new stuff in the ocean, right? Or maybe at like ocean life or stuff. But why are you trying to go into that negative energy and not think that maybe you'll meet the same outcome?
Right.
And so the trippy thing is that the name of this ship was, the Titan, which I'm guessing that it was a spinoff of the Titanic. But the original name of the Titanic was a spinoff of a book,
Mm-hmm.
which, mind you, in the book, the ship was called the Titan. So that goes back to what the submarine's name was, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was in the book. It was called the Titan, and the Titan had like the same fate as the Titanic. So they took this book, right? Which in the book the writer said, hey, there's this boat named the Titan, and it's gonna crash, and it's gonna hit an iceberg, and all this shit, right? And sure enough, they were like, oh, okay, we're gonna name the Titanic after this book, and then that's the fate they met. And then fast forward, they create the submarine called the Titan, and that's the fate it met. Like I don't know, like to me, it's just it's mind boggling that like why would you want to go? Why are you testing fate like that? I don't get it. I
So
don't get
James
it.
Cameron, the director, he actually like said a
Yes.
statement earlier. He goes, "I'm struck by the similarities of the Titanic disaster itself, where the captain was repeatedly warned about ice ahead of the ship, and yet steamed at full speed into an ice field on a moonless night, and many people died as a result.
Mm-hmm.
He added, and with a very similar tragedy where warnings went unheeded to take place at
Yep.
the same exact site with all the diving that's going on all around the world, I think it's just astonishing. It's really quite surreal.
It is. And that to me, it's like I forgot what movie it was. I think it might have been Ghostbusters, where they were saying something where like there's pockets of negative energy in the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what happened to the Titanic was caused because of this pocket of negative energy. And it's like if you go anywhere near that, you're gonna see the similar fate. I don't. He may have went there once or twice, but you keep going there, you're gonna awaken that negative energy. I
Right.
don't understand it. Like me personally, once again, I'm not going underwater like that though.
Maybe
But
it was just a calling. Actually, let's go to him in his own words. Let's go see. I'm gonna pull the clip. What's his name?
the CEO,
Yes, the CEO. That's how we're gonna have to refer to him. Rush, I think his last name was Rush. But let's pull him up. He's just saying a couple words about um his business, his company.
It's a very unusual business. It's its own category. It's a new type of travel.
Stockton Rush is the CEO of OceanGate, a company that offers dives to the Titanic
There
in
it
a
is.
look how
one-of-a-kind
little that view is.
submersible for $250,000 per person.
Who are the typical clientele?
So we see how small the ship is. And we see how small that, window is that they're really going to be able to see out of. And this is what people are paying, $250,000 to submerge themselves in water in.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Listen. If you're a billionaire, give me you. Listen, you don't even have to give me 250K. Give me 50K, and I'll just hold you underwater, and see how you like. Oh, I'm being held underwater. I'll just give me 50K, and I'll do that for you. You know, I'll be liable for anything that happens too. I'm gonna hold you underwater and see how you like it. Give you that kind of experience. If you don't know what you want to do with your money, that's it's freaking crazy, man. 250K, 50K, $250,000. I can't even talk right now. $250,000 they spent. So that was between the three seats, 750K that he made off of them. That he ain't even gonna get to enjoy. Well, the company gets to enjoy, but I'm guaranteed this company's going belly up.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're done. Nobody's gonna touch them. It might get absorbed by like another company, but there's some glaring signs. You know, James Cameron said it, right? There was some glaring signs, and this guy didn't listen. And there's some glaring signs that we got to go into, on the show. We got to talk about this stuff because we're gonna start seeing this more. And that's the sad part about this is that we're gonna see more tragedies like this.
That's what you see coming?
Oh, I do. I definitely see more because of the way that you see him as this explorer mindset,
Mm-hmm.
but I see him and what I've heard, the stuff I've heard, he was infected by the virus that's going on right now. This woke mind that's going on right now. He was infected with that, and that led to a lot of what some of this negligence that's going on, and we're going to see that across the board. So we're going to see more tragedies like this,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad. It's sad, but go ahead, go on. I'm sorry, I'm going my rants again.
So I'm really not keeping kind of with the scale of the order of things, how things happened. But I also have the audio for anyone who hasn't heard it yet from Blue Sea, where the rescue teams, they picked up these sounds and they were like, well, let's check this area.
Mm-hmm.
Chilling. Just
Kind of sounds like SOS. It almost sounds like SOS. So maybe that's why they started focusing on that.
Mm.
because SOS is do do do, and they go
Right.
do do do, and that's what it sounded like. That's SOS. So that's probably why they started focusing more and started looking in that area, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of led them to the wreckage, which to me that's kind of trippy. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of trippy that they heard that. Like, if their soul's like, hey, I want to be put to rest, kind of deal, because what I got from the timeline and what the Coast Guard came out today, they were like, "Hey, we found wreckage, and it looks like that they on the descent down, the submarine imploded on itself.
Mm-hmm.
So because of the pressure of the ocean, it just kind of and just collapsed on itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so once again, there was warnings of that. This guy, the CEO, crappy dude, he cut corners with the whole building of this submarine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He was warned about the window. I think he put some of it was like carbon fiber that he put together. I mean, for the most part, this thing was controlled with a old PlayStation 2 controller.
Mm-hmm.
It's controlled with an old PlayStation 2 controller because the operating system was like I want to say Windows XP. It was probably something like Windows XP, so none of like the modern day controllers or anything like that was compatible with it. It was a wireless controller at that. So it's like, what happens if, as you're trying to use it, it loses control,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why wasn't it wired in? You didn't have a dongle for this thing. You couldn't plug it in. Um, and so, he was cutting corners. He was using, outdated technology, and it sounded like on the descent down, when they lost that communication, it was because it imploded on itself.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me, um, like, that was the second best case scenario, right? If the first best scenario was that they were found and they came back, alive. The second best case scenario is what?
They
They
didn't
die
suffer.
instantly,
Yeah, they
right?
didn't
They didn't
suffer.
suffer. They
Maybe they
died
didn't see it
instantly, right?
coming.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that they didn't see it coming, like, it just poof, and that's it. They're done. That's like that. That to me was like the best thing that, other than them coming back alive, of course. And my condolences goes out to the family and everybody that put their trust in this guy, because, like I said, this guy was at work,
Yeah.
and yeah, the worst case scenario would have been if they were still down there, you know, just sitting in that can, knowing that they're gonna die because they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
run out of air, and knowing that nobody's gonna find them. Especially when you're like, you're a billionaire, and with all the money and all the resources you have, you can't even use any of that to save your life right now.
Yeah.
That's the
What
worst
about the
case scenario. And I
father?
would have,
That exact
yeah,
same scenario, but knowing that your money can't save your kid.
yeah.
Mm.
And like I said, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. That's a horrible way to go. Just knowing like, hey, you're gonna go.
Yeah.
So the fact that it imploded, the Coast Guard came back and said, they found the wreckage and all that stuff. So it looks like that's what happened. They've been gone since Sunday, and this whole time that we were hoping, that and counting down the time as far as how much time they had left with the oxygen and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like they've been gone since Sunday. So Tris said, saw a video of a guy getting stuck in a water slide tube. That was enough claustrophobia for me, much less a submarine. I know, man. Like there's times, like, when you see, oh, there's a new Insidious movie. So Insidious is like a movie franchise of like scary movies and stuff like that. And there was the trailer where the guy's in the CAT scan machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's in the machine, and I've been in one of those machines before, and then you feel really claustrophobic because you can't move in those things. And so he's in it, and it's like the demon's like at his feet coming at him. He's like, oh, right. So it's like freaking creepy as all hell. So I'm thinking like that. Like, there's no way, like, you couldn't pay me enough money to get in one of these cans,
Mm-hmm.
because once you get in there, the whole claustrophobic, and then knowing, like, you're hearing the whole and like everything, the noise of the water just outside, like,
Yes.
like just turning and stuff because of the pressure of the, like, nah, man, I just, nah,
Yeah, submarines,
nope,
they kind of freak
I'm
me out
good. I
too. Like,
checked
I think
out.
about, I think about like the Navy being out at sea, and like men they're just living on these ships for months. And I'm just like, how? How the hell?
I was terrified of just being on a regular ship,
Mhm.
right? The big ass ships that's just floating above on the water. You know, the
Mhm.
one that pulls to dock every so often. But imagine if you got orders where you're actually in the sub and you're just
Right.
submersed. Nah, man. Nah, man. And you
Well,
talk about
now
like
the men
cabin
who
fever.
are in the subs, and that's like their whatever, that's what they're doing. They're out there in the subs. How often do they come to the surface? Is it like days that they're underwater?
That's a good question. No, they probably come up and they probably, rotate because they probably got to get fuel and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
I would also say that they probably push those subs and they probably get rated for a certain length of time, and they're
Yeah.
probably pushing it that long, depending on how like self-sufficient they are.
Mhm.
Because I know, like the naval ships, they were going to like each port, right? And they were going there, and you have the guys. I was always hearing stories of how crazy these guys would go because they were just let go. They were like, hey, we got 48 hours. You got to go do whatever you want, right? You're on
Mhm.
leave. Go have fun. And these guys were going crazy because like it was like letting an animal off the leash at that point because they were just months on end out in the water, right?
Wow.
So yeah, I can only imagine like the mindset you got to have to be trapped in a tin can under, what was it, 10,000 feet of water?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the
God,
Titanic's at 12.5.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So let's pull up the depth. Let's go into that one because that's crazy. Right, so you had that on. I saw you had it earlier. She can't find it.
Nope. Where did it
You
go?
closed it already?
Probably.
Goodness. Did we lose you? Like you froze, but I'm like, I don't know if she's still there or not.
Can
So
you hear my
Trish
cat in
said,
the background?
yeah, I do hear your cat in the background and also dishes. Trish said it would be cool to see the wildlife down there. Yeah, so that was one of the so after the whole hoopla of the new Little Mermaid, where people came out and were like, "Oh, that's not the accurate Little Mermaid." People actually did the like what a mermaid would look under the sea,
Mm-hmm.
and like it was just like translucent. It had like a light to it. It was like a hideous looking like mermaid monster that they did. But like the creatures under there, like they're like we're used to seeing the fishes right in the ocean, like
Mm-hmm.
by the Caribbean, with all full of colors and stuff like that, right? Like Sebastian singing under the sea, right? And he's seeing all the colorful fishes and seahorses and stuff like that. That's like up here. Down here is nothing but monsters. And I think they're freaking nothing
Right.
but
Once it gets
dinosaurs
down
down there.
here, there's no
Yeah,
light.
that's
It's
dinosaurs.
dark.
You got
Yeah.
freaking horrific monsters down there.
Yeah.
Like that. What's that movie that's coming? The Big Shark movie, Megalodon. That is a big, huge dinosaur shark that's down there. That's all that's down there. It's like freaking your nightmares. That's what's down there.
But you're right. You're so right. So like the fish usually live like within like this upper area.
Yeah, all the colorful
Down
fishes.
here's a giant squid, like which the giant squid, we're talking about like the big ones, not the little baby ones that are kind of exploring up here. We're talking
Yeah,
about the
so
big guys
zoom
are
zoom
down
in on
here.
this. Zoom in on this so that we can
That's as
see
big as I can
what
get
this
it.
says. You can't zoom in more? You can't make it
No,
like a
that's
full
it.
screen?
That's
Okay.
it. That's it. So
So read it for us.
over here's an inverted Empire State Building and the
Yes,
Statue of
which
Liberty to
you have it
scale.
right up, you have on the right here in the corner. So there's the Statue of Liberty. That tiny little speckle on the top is the
Yep.
Statue of Liberty. And then the bigger mass right there is the Empire State Building.
Yep.
Okay? For reference. And they're upside down so we can kind of see how much further down we're going into the ocean. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Down
And
here
the
is where the
biggest,
whales are, those big animals that we do get to see pictures and stuff of. We do get a glimpse of
right,
this world.
right, the killer whale. And the killer whale is chilling at like halfway on this map. He
Mm-hmm.
ain't even going all the way down there. He's like, hell no, I'm not going to those depths. So
Yeah.
now Lynn got to scroll because she's scrolling right now. And this is why it's taking 8 hours. It takes them 8 hours to go down all of this.
Yeah.
And this is where the very bottom, that's where the Titanic is sitting.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So the wreck of the Titanic, which is at 12,500 feet.
That's
and then
crazy.
This is supposed to be the illustration of the sub, the little sub that was down there that these men were in. The 5 men were lost at sea in this little sub.
And you see, and like, once again, Lynn brought up the whole exploration spirit, which I give them kudos, but they put their trust in the wrong dude. That's what I'm getting at. Like, they put their trust in the wrong dude. And like, I even give kudos to pirates. Like, pirates, if somebody wanted to go down there, they're treasure hunters, right? And they're going down there and they're trying to find like these old, because there's a lot of the ocean's a graveyard, right? Where there's like a bunch of ships that went down with a lot of gold, right? So if they were, going down there treasure hunting, trying to find, and they're using these subs, to find these treasures and, trying to make their dough and make their cut in life. Hey, I respect that too. I wouldn't do that, but I respect that. And like, I respect the whole explorer, like, soul and spirit and mindset. But once again, you got to put your trust in the right people. And when all these videos are coming out that clearly show this guy was cutting corners, this guy had a woke mindset too, by the way. He was very into this whole diversity thing. And he said that he didn't want to hire white 50-year-old submariners, right? Because he wanted to be diverse. He was like, I can't inspire a 60-year-old, man to be an explorer. So he's hiring kids who don't have that experience, kids who would not understand what's going to happen when, the glass starts cracking and you're, 4,000 feet, 4,000 feet underwater, right? So he refused to hire and it's funny too, because there was a submarine guy who put out a video, and I think it's called like the tragedy of the Titan. And he actually broke down for 20 minutes everything that went wrong. Like he had a nice, PowerPoint presentation of everything this guy did wrong and why he should have had, that experience. And this is why I'm saying that we're going to start seeing more stuff like this, because we're already starting hearing the news where people are hiring per diversity and not per experience, right?
Yes.
So we're hearing this, it's already happening with air traffic control, right? We're going to start seeing this with pilots soon. And that's scary to think that we're on a commercial flight and they hired the person based off of the color of their skin and not the skills in their head, the knowledge they have in their head. That's terrifying. Like, to me, I already don't go on the plane as much as Lynn does, but Lynn, you're going to keep traveling if like, hey, I'm your pilot today. I'm a diversity hire.
You know what? It's crazy because like pilots they've been in the news a lot. They're getting a lot of heat right now. And it's because, nobody wants to work right now. Nobody wants to be the pilots. Nobody wants to, nobody wants to be part of like modern day slavery. Everyone's like, hey, like, no, I want to be liberated. I want to work for myself. And we are experiencing like higher than average air incidents because of this. So you're right. There is a change, a shift right now.
Doesn't it make you feel warm and fuzzy when you see, you're in the plane and the pilot comes out and it's like, oh, it's the old white guy. All right, he knows what he's doing. I don't know. To me, I would not want to see some young, and I'm just being like age. It's not about color or anything. Like, that's just age. Because age to me comes with right. It's just age equals experience, right?
Experience comes with age.
So like, I want to see a pilot that's been flying for 20 years. That's just me. I don't want the pilot to come out and be like, "Hey, this is my first flight, everybody," and we're all applauding. Like, no,
because so many things can go wrong. So many things can go wrong. I mean, I've had rough landings in a plane. Like the one time I landed, it was definitely in a storm. Like the pilot was doing some crazy maneuver where like they weren't coming just like straight down. They were like doing like this kind of like waving back and forth thing as it was like landing. And you could just tell like the pilot was experienced. He knew what the hell he was doing. It was scary as shit, but he knew what he was doing, So yeah, you're right. It does come with time
And
experience.
one,
Comes with time.
yeah, one of the things that they used to do. So, in the Marines, the pilots had to do, they had to have like a certain amount of flight hours, right?
Hmm.
So they were constantly running these, the helicopters out and taking them out. And we were always, doing runs so they can get their hours, right? And some of the tests they would do when they were out there is like they would kill the engine and see like how they get, float the thing and then
Hmm.
cut it back up and, get it back going again. And so, but once again, that's a test of a seasoned pilot seeing like, hey, what happens when one of the engines go out?
Hmm.
Right? What happens when you don't have any engines? How do you cruise this thing, right? How do you keep it afloat and get it down and all that? And it's like it's scary that we're in a society that's focusing on I said in the last episode, we're pushing this ESG score, but now there's a new one that's out there. It's called DEI, which
Hmm.
companies are focusing on DEI now, which is the diversity, equity, and inclusivity or something like that. And once again, they're focusing on, you know, the person, the individual, and not the experience. And that to me is mind wrecking. It's mind wrecking. Like I would not like. Would you really want to trust the nuclear codes or the nuclear controls of our defense systems to some junior guy because he fits a check in the box, or do you want to give that behind somebody who's experienced? Now, granted, that guy could follow the guy with experience, and I'm all for having that mentorship, right?
Hmm.
That mentorship and apprenticeship and all that stuff. Hey, cool. Teach the guy. That's the only way he can be the veteran with 20 years experience. But we still need to have that. And it's crazy that we're trying to like eradicate that stuff.
Right.
Only Sully could pull off a miracle on the Hudson. Yeah, yeah, they
Hmm.
needed Sully on that submarine. Exactly. Like and that's a great point. Like that's a great like Sully once again. A junior guy in that plane would have crashed and it would have not been a movie. The fact that Sully had that experience, Tom Hanks played him in the movie.
Hmm.
Like we celebrate when people can hold their cool and get people through a time of tragedy, right?
Hmm.
Like we celebrate that. We're like, oh man, that's he was stoic. He was all the great words. He was a hero, right? And he did what he did, and he's like, I didn't feel like a hero. I just I knew I had to muscle memory kicked in, and I kept my cool, and I had to I knew I had all these lives, and my life and at stake, and I had to get all these people through this, and so um if it wasn't for his experience, like I said, that movie wouldn't be there. It'd just
Right.
be another tragedy. For example, I know a few years ago there was a plane that was just lost, and we still don't know where that plane is to this day. We don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think I always think it's like that's a sci-fi thing. Remember that TV show Manifest? I feel
Yeah.
like they'd come back and like, yeah, you guys been gone for like 7 years. Where did you go?
Oh my God.
Because there was no trace. They either looking for it, and they just
They
can't
couldn't
find
find anything. Nope.
nothing. Yeah, so that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
And that goes back to what you were saying, where like there are these like poles at different places of the earth where there's just like energy. Like we all know to stay away from the Bermuda Triangle. Like
Right.
this is one of
Yeah,
those
that's another
things.
one.
Like where
Exactly.
did this plane go? What happened to this plane? Like is it that it was absorbed by something? Is it just being hidden under something? Like where'd it go? You're
Yeah,
right.
where did it go? Where did it
Mhm.
go? And so, like, I don't know. To me, there's a lot of mysterious things, but I see that's what makes this world so amazing. It's what makes it so beautiful is that there is so many. What is so a comedian is getting sued by
By
Malaysian
Malaysia
government
government
for
for making
making
fun of
fun
that
of
because it was
the plane.
Malaysia airline.
Yeah, oh yeah. I don't know why, but I also thought of Lost when I heard about that plane. It
Hmm.
was like oceanic flight, whatever, right? And
Yeah.
then they got lost, and I was like, oh man,
Like
that's a
flight
great show. I gotta start
828.
watching that. Yeah,
Oh
I
no,
gotta start
828
watching
is from Manifest.
that Manifest.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in closing, We're going to the top of the hour. So, you have anything else to say about the sub, the Titanic sub? Anything
Well,
else,
I do
Lynn?
want to talk shit about this one dude's stepson. Like, you know what? I was having mixed feelings about him all day today. So the billionaire that was on the flight,
Oh yeah,
his
yeah. I just saw that.
stepson went to a concert, and my rationale was like, well, if he already had the tickets, it'd be different than if he just like his friend
I
was
can
like,
see
yo,
that.
come to this concert. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna book the tickets right now.
First off, he's a freaking billionaire. He can get tickets whenever he wants, right?
Mhm.
He has money like that. I'm sorry, but if you're close to any family member, you're worried about the family member.
So then
And
that was
Cardi B
another
called him
thing.
out on that. Yo, Cardi B called him out on that.
Yep.
That's
So that's
freaking
another thing
hilarious.
I thought of, like I would think in my position, I wouldn't want any fake love, I wouldn't want the fake prayers. I wouldn't want somebody who maybe I don't have a good relationship with to be like, oh, well, let me sit home and be miserable because, appearances. So, we don't know what their relationship was like. We don't know.
Yeah,
It's just like he's
I, I
out
get,
and
I
out.
get, I get what you're saying, but I also want the respect.
Mm-hmm.
And like, he could have went to the concert. He didn't have to post about it.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Like,
That's
out of
true.
respect, he could have just been like, I'm doing this dolo, and I'm not gonna, beseech my stepdad's name.
Mm-hmm.
I may not have a relationship with him, but I'm gonna have respect with him because, he was my stepdad, and I'm not gonna, you know, I know he's lost out there. I'm gonna go to the concert. I'm gonna, kind of de-stress about the whole situation, but I'm not gonna post on social media about
Right.
this
Do it
shit.
privately.
Do it privately. Yeah. I don't know. Just some people just don't have decency. I'm telling you, man. Uh, some people are just so stuck on their phone that it's just crazy that. And then he posted, like, so everybody called him out. He apologized, and then he like 2 seconds after his apology, he started hollering at some like OnlyFans chick. I'm like, God, jeez, this kid has no like,
Oh my God.
no sense of like empathy or like sense of just what's going on. Man. It's crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
None whatsoever.
So then there was something else I wanted to pull up, which of course I can't find. But so one of the things I noticed on Twitter this morning was a lot of people was calling this fake. They were like, "Oh, this is fake. It's just let me see. It's a hoax. Let me see. The submarine thing is a damn hoax. It's a demo. No, they made it political. It's a damn hoax to steer you away from the Hunter Biden evidence. There's a lot of people saying each one deserves exactly what they will get. Fake. This pic puts the scary experience in perspective. They were talking about the audio being unconfirmed. We're just in a society nowadays that, where's the humanity? Where's the decency? Where's
There
the
isn't. There isn't. And their sides, everybody has their sides because that was another thing I
yes?
heard. Because the CEO donated to like GOP politicians,
Mm-hmm.
everybody was like wishing death on these people. They were wishing death on these people because they're rich. And I'm like, man, you could just see the animosity in people. You're so bitter that you didn't figure out or you didn't crack a formula that made you rich,
Mm-hmm.
that you're so bitter that it's a life, my guy. Where's your humanity, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, where's your humanity? Like these people were wishing death on them because they're rich.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's crazy. There's a father and son combo in that. That is a minority, if you want to call it. You want worrying about all your checks and all your bubbles, right? There's a minority on board,
Mm-hmm.
father son combo, and you have no humanity on that
Right.
because he figured out a way to make himself like he figured out the system, and you haven't, so you're gonna be bitter about it.
Mm.
Like I don't understand that, man. I
And you know
don't.
what? It also makes us question a lot of things because we are in a time and age where a lot of the stuff we do see is fake. And it opens that box. It opens that window for people to be like, oh, are we being, deceived, or is there a misconception? And the possibility was out there that this was fake, but like I don't understand why people just they latch onto that. They're like, oh, no way, like this is fabricated, it's a hoax, and
Because
people
well,
choose that negativity.
Yeah, and when push comes to shove, though, it actually lets you see people's true characters too.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, there's the people who are following the story and they're hoping that they can be rescued and hope that they're alive, and it's just filled with hope, right? You're following it and you're on the hook of it for hope, and then there's just some people who are just on it for despair,
Mm-hmm.
like, just, I don't know, it's just, it goes to the train of thought of, what kind of person are you? Do you see the glass half empty, or do you see the glass half full? Are you optimistic or pessimistic, right? Are you filling your life with positive energy, and you're out here trying to make the most of it? Or are you filling your life with negative energy? And you're in that echo chamber, and you're just constantly like, oh, the system is rigged and it's against me, and oh, blah blah blah. And are you falling into, all of the propaganda that's out here,
Mm-hmm.
Because like Lynn always says, if you don't stand for something, you don't fall for anything.
Mm-hmm. People find entertainment in tragedy.
And seem to hate positivity. Yeah, positivity is, but you know what? Positivity is infectious, though.
Mm-hmm.
It is infectious. But you got to understand that when you're putting out that energy, it is draining, right? It is draining when you put out that positivity. Most people will gravitate towards it and be like, whoa, what's this energy? I'm not used to it. And
Mm-hmm.
they'll, kind of help you, put it out there. But then there's a certain type of people that just been having that negativity and that aura, that negative energy for like ages.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing you can do. Like, that negativity is just like, you could feel it. And like, I felt it on that concert, right? I felt it in the concert. My son felt it. And when the guy left, it was just like like it almost felt like air, which is funny because we're in a stadium, right? So it's an outdoor stadium, and it just felt like we could breathe again. It was like
Mm-hmm.
air just came rushing in, and like we could breathe, and it's just a fresh of clean air. Ironically, it felt like, you remember when the smoke,
Yeah, the
when
smoke
we
from the
had all the
Canadian
smoke and we
wildfires.
couldn't go outside because it was all wet.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that negative energy is. Like, you can't breathe, right? And once the person leaves, it's just like, oh, you get like fresh air, right? And so it's yeah, it's just, you just got to keep being you. You can't let people's negativity bring you down, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a battle out here. I'm telling you, it's a spiritual war. We're in the midst of a spiritual war, and it's just you, your energy, your soul. What do you feel? Are you gonna buy into all that negativity, or are you going to keep being you, genuine, right, and just try to live the best life and keep putting out that positivity?
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you,
And,
man. Either
this
one is
is
infectious.
another death and tragedy is often a reminder that tomorrow isn't promised.
Hmm.
So live for today. Make sure that you make decisions today that are going to make you happy, are going to give you that sense of joy, are going to give you that sense of peace.
Right.
Because you never know when your last day is going to be.
Right. And another example is, you can't take that money with you. Look at, they were billionaires, so there's nothing they could do.
No.
But going back to what Lynn said, I'm gonna harp it again. They had that explorer soul, right? They had that
Mhm.
ambition to do something. And so, in a tragedy, like, as cliche as it's gonna sound, you know, they went out doing what they wanted to do, right? They went out doing it their way. Now,
Mhm.
unfortunately, their life could have been prolonged if they would have trusted the right person.
Mhm.
And there's only one person on that ship. I mean, maybe they all made bad decisions, but there was one person on that ship that guy was just a crummy dude, man. Just a
Mhm.
crummy dude. And so, unfortunately, his actions, had consequences, but it is what it is. Now, in closing, I am going to say that once again, the Simpsons predicted this. I'm seeing the memes on Twitter that shows
Yes.
that the Simpsons had
In their
this
little
whole thing.
subs. Yep.
Yeah, like, what was it? Almost like, what was it? Like 17 years ago or something like that. There was an episode where they showed them going down and losing oxygen and all that stuff.
I feel like what I need to do is watch The Simpsons and then avoid everything that I see in there.
So why watch it then?
All right, let me see.
Yeah, Simpsons crazy, man.
So
How much
the Simpsons
projections
writer,
there.
producer Mike Reese, he actually
Mhm.
went on TMZ Live, and he described his personal journey to view the Titanic wreck aboard the Ocean Gate. So he actually went down there. He took this trip, Mike Reese. And while he said he felt relaxed throughout, he was also fearful he might die down deep inside the ocean.
Mm-mm-mm.
Mm. You know what? And
Mm-mm.
that kind of makes me wonder, like, was he picking up on that energy? Like, while he felt relaxed, did he kind of just feel that sense of like doom from being so close to, the ship?
Yeah, tell you, man. There's something like I don't know
Mm,
that just negative energy. It's like lost souls. It's like like when you hear people, what they say about like haunted homes, right? I
mm-hmm,
believe that sometimes. I really do believe that some homes are haunted. Maybe we don't see the ghost, but that energy and that presence is still there.
mm-hmm,
Especially if they died in a tragic way, right? How do you not expect that energy not to be there?
right.
Like something tragic happened there, right? There wasn't closure. There wasn't. I don't know. To me, I I don't know.
You know what's
I
been
wouldn't mess with
popping
that
up
energy.
everywhere that's starting to freak me the hell out? These little like roadside graves that everyone's putting up. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's too many of them now. Now they're just everywhere. Have you noticed them?
Yeah, I know. I noticed one the other day where so somebody actually went and bought a motorcycle tire to
Mhm.
put on the grave. Or I don't know if they actually like if they went and bought one or they took it off the dude's bike or what. But there was a motorcycle tire there with the flowers and everything in it. And I was like, yo, that's kind of creepy. Yeah, it is kind of weird that we're doing that now everywhere, like every
Yeah,
corner and stuff. I mean, at least it's a reminder. Hey, slow down, right?
that's
Like you
true.
see it, like
That's true.
oh
Like, hey,
shoot,
make
yeah,
sure
the
no
guy
cars
died there.
coming before you make that
Yeah,
turn.
like slow down,
Hmm.
But you know what? But in a way, though, everybody has to mourn the way they need to mourn, right?
Hmm.
So 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 Trish said, so is this ship really cursed? I don't know if the ship itself is really cursed or if that area where it went down is just a pocket of negative energy. And
Right.
I'm curious to see what other ships in history or whatever, what else has gravitated to that area and like kind of disappeared. Like would it be crazy like if we looked at the flight pattern of that flight that we were talking about and actually flew over that and that's why it disappeared?
Could you imagine?
See, I'm just going
But
into
you know what? That's
my
similar to the Bermuda Triangle and how it became known for these their disappearances is
right.
because that's what happened. People would just disappear around there. Planes, boats, everything would just go missing.
Right. And of course, some scientists is going to be very analytical about it because, I have, I try to have that analytical brain too. And they'll be like, oh, well, maybe the magnetic of the earth had an interference with their equipment that made everything go crazy. And so as they flew close to it, their equipment went crazy and they all crashed. And that's the correlation between why they're all, disappearing and all that. Or, or you could just go into the whole mythical part of it and be like, yo, there's pockets of energy out here
Hmm.
the same way, they say hug a tree and you can feel, the tree's energy. You can kind of, give it your energy or take its energy, right?
Hmm.
I don't know. To me, I want to think that way. And the same way there's a negative energy pocket, and we see this in the Titanic that just keeps taking souls, maybe somewhere on the earth there's a positive pocket, and we just got to find that.
Hmm.
See, you got to always be optimistic. You always got to see everything. Because if I see, like, hey, you know what? If there's signs of this, then there must be signs of that. So,
I can't believe I cannot find the video I found earlier. So it was actually it was inside this same little submarine and it was another voyage and I don't remember what year. I want to say it was like 20, maybe it was 2018 that they're talking about, but it showed how this little thing got stuck in a previous submersion
did
where
he?
it was down there by the Titanic. The second half of the Titanic actually sank upside down. It flipped. So they were underneath that, and there was just a little pocket where they were stuck for about 45 minutes.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and it was just like the current that had them like stuck in this area. And then finally, you know, like the pilot was able to get them out. But the news reporter that was on that one, he goes into the whole story. He tells his experience, and they show like footage of, you know, being down there. They show like the different, I guess, like past explorers have left like little plaques and stuff, right, you know, on the hull of the ship. So that's down there, you know, like there's so much information and so much, you know, to explore down there. I see the draw, but at the same time, like, this is
It's crazy
terrifying.
though.
Send the freaking
Yeah,
robot,
there's
right? We have
so much.
robots now.
Yeah, for real. We got drones. We're fighting wars with
Please.
drones. It's like
Yes.
we literally got like the army out here, you know, going to like when I went to AwesomeCon, right? All, you know, all the branches were there. Navy, Marines, Army, they were all there, right? And they're recruiting these kids. They're recruiting these kids at video game conventions, right? Because they're like, hey, you're good with this controller, come fly our drones. And so they're flying their drones. I believe they're flying them in like Vegas or something like that. And they're fighting these wars with these drones. And it's like Lynn said, why can't you send a submarine drone down there and just see it that way? But I guess it's not the same thing. It's fake, right? It's not. You gotta be there. It's like the same thing with space exploration. We can
I
send
don't know. There
drones
was a
up
whole
there, but
movie. There was a whole movie where it was like, the whole premise was like, that he decided to like blow something up. So then they were like, nah, you need to be a foot soldier now, because being behind the, you know, behind the screen, it was surreal. Like he didn't really like connect with what he actually
he was
did.
doing what he was
Yeah.
doing. Yeah. Yeah. I
Well,
don't
you
know,
cut
man.
out, and I think I took that completely left. You were definitely talking about something else.
No, but no, I get what you're saying, but like once again, I would be the one that I'd rather just do it through a drone. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. Or better yet, I'll be the one that would just put on some VR headset and be like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. And then it starts freaking me out, and I'll just take the damn thing off. Be like, oh, I'm not really hungry. All right, I'm cool.
You're not gonna go run into a wall because you want to get away from it.
Like those clips are funny when people just like, oh my god, run into the wall
Yeah.
because they got scared or something. Yeah, no, I just, hey, you know what? Spirit of exploration. I got to give them props because they are better people who are trying to do something cool. And maybe it leads to us having like I don't know, a colony down in the ocean. Great, but I don't see myself doing that shit. Just not me. I'm tapping out. Maybe space. I don't know. But then once again, so I'm curious. In this submarine, did they at least have lights? Or was it like blacked out
It did. So
darkness?
it described that during the descent they would dim the lights during that 2-hour descent while you were, you know, traveling down. So they had to have lights if they were able to dim the lights.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Well, on that note, you have anything else on this whole crazy story, Lynn?
No.
Anything that you might have
Be
missed?
safe out there, man.
Yeah. I mean, live it up.
That's why I tell my children, make good choices. Make good choices, all right?
So Trish said, how far did they make it? We do not know. We do not know if they made it all the way down to the bottom, if they were on their descent down and that's when it imploded, or if they were on their way back and they imploded. But no clue.
Yeah, they lost contact with them about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes into the descent, and that was it. They didn't hear from them after that.
Yeah, and that was Sunday. And, you know, I was hoping that they were still alive because I believe they had like 96 hours of reserve oxygen,
Yeah.
you know, for 5 people. But once again, when you're in a stressful situation like that, people tend to breathe a lot faster, right? So it was give or take.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no clue. But at least for the families, you know, at least the Coast Guard came out today and they said that they found, you know, a wreckage. They found, and they came out with the hypothesis that it imploded on itself because they didn't find any bodies or anything, but they did find wreckage. So at
Right.
least that gives, the family and the survivors, some kind of closure.
Hmm.
Because I mean, that's the worst feeling. Like,
Just not.
they're gone, but
Yeah.
you don't have that evidence. Like, you need that evidence, right? To have closure. So, you know, to the families, yeah, my condolences. And it's tragic as a dad to know, father and son combo was on this.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. But yeah, that's all I got.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Couch Show. Have a great weekend. We will see you on Monday for another episode.
Peace. Have a good weekend and live it up. Live life to the fullest, everybody. Love you guys.